What is up, my little pretties? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and today we are back with another episode of Shadows and Pretties. So today this is episode 35 of Shadows and Pretties, and the last episode we did was a Studio Ghibili movie, which is also known as Kiki's Delivery Service. Today I decided to do another Studio Ghibili movie for this episode because why not? I decided to because why not? So, with that being said, welcome to episode 35 of Shadows and Pretties. Now, if you want to, if you guys want to check out the rest of the episodes, I have a playlist for this kind of series so you guys can check it out if you guys like to. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to explain about what is Castle in the Sky. Now, Castle in the Sky is another Hayao Miyazaki movie who directed, Kiki's Delivery Service, Spirit Away, and etc. So, we are going to begin with, explain what Castle in the Sky is about for those who are curious as to what the story is about. But I'm going to say right now about what my opinion is on this movie. I actually found this movie to be rather sweet and amazing. Despite the fact that this one was a really amazing, well done made of Studio Ghibli, this movie actually is just as good as the other ones, like Kiki's Delivery Service and etc. I found Castle in the Sky to be a rather heartwarming and amazing movie. Especially with this being done in the 80s, it's still very well made and done, as I really do enjoy watching this movie. And I still do to this very day really adore this movie, and I still do. So, with that being said, I am going to get to the plot on what Castle in the Sky is about for those who are curious on what this is about. So, I guess with that being said, I'm probably just gonna, begin with this because, you guys are probably wondering, what is Castle in the Sky about? So, I think with that being said, we're just gonna begin with it. So, of course, Disney has dubbed this in 1998 and 2003, but of course, the English version dubbing of this for the streamline line thing pictures back in 1989. So that's just something I could definitely point out about the English versions of this movie. So let's go on with the plot of this movie. So there's an airship who is carrying Shita, who is a young orphan girl who has been abducted by government agent Muska, is attacked by Captain Dola and her air pirates' sons, who are in the search of Shita's small blue crystal pendant. And resulting in the struggle, Shita eventually falls from the airship, but her descent is slowed down by a mysterious power within the emlet. She safely lands in a small mining town, where she is discovered by a brave young boy named Patsu, who takes her to his home and recover, and Patsu tells her about the mysterious floating island called Laputa, or in this case, the castle in the sky. And that's actually what Laputa is this basically a floating island described in 1726 in the book Scholar's Travels by Jonathan Swift. So yeah, that's just basically something that is just kind of based off, or they may have just got an inspiration of it. So that's actually one of the reasons why it's called Laputa, which is visible to the picture been taken by his father. Later, they are pursued by Dola's pirates and then by Muska's soldiers. Eventually, the two fall into an abandoned mine where they encounter an Enric Uncle Palm, who informs them about Sheeta's amulet made of levitation stone crystal. Is a material to keep Laputa and the other flying cities at aloft. So upon leaving the mines, Sheeta ends up telling Patsu that her full name is Lucida Yul Laputa, and they are captured by Muska and taken to the fortress of the Tidis, where Patsu is imprisoned in a dungeon tower while Shita is imprisoned in a more lavish room. Muska, however, shows Shita a dominant Laputan robot and reveals that his knowledge of her secret name, which interprets of what the Laputan royal line, Muskuga again threatens Patsu's life to be obtained Shita's corporation for his own safety. Shita orders Patsu to leave, and Muska offers him money to leave and forget about Laputa. A distraught Patsu returns home, where he is then ambushed by Dola and her sons. So after hearing that Patsu out, then they prepare to intercept to capture the crystal, allowing Patsu to join them as a preparations processed. So Shita recites the verse, and unexpectedly activates the amulet and the robot, which follows Sheeta, destroying the fortress along the way until it's overcome by the military airship Goliath. Patsu, however, arrives and rescues Sheeta, but Muska obtains the amulet, and the pirates, accompanied by Patsu and Sheeta, return to the airship Tiger Moth, but they pursue Goliath, which of course becomes the next part, is that Sheeta becomes the ship's cook, while Dola puts Patsu to work with her husband in the engine room, which is following the directions by Sheeta's amulet to locate Laputa. So that night, joining Patsu for lookout duty, Sheeta reveals that her grandmother taught her that many spells as a child, including the spell of destruction. So during their encounter with Goliath, Dola tells Patsu and Sheeta how they can turn the lookout into a kite, allowing them to see higher to their surroundings. The tiger moth soon approaches the hurricane, which Patsu spots a swirl of clouds. Recognizing the clouds from the sky of the picture, he tells Dola that they found Laputa and insists that he head over towards the eye of the storm. However, when Goliath appears and opens fires, the tiger moth, sending it crashing down to the flames, gunshots, servers, and cables connecting to the lookout night kites of the ship, sending Patsu and Sheeta drifting into the clouds. Once they land on Laputa, they eventually found a city ruined and overgrown. So it's like an abandoned structure that Sheeta and Patsu ended up, coming across when they were in with this castle in the sky. Now, the villains in this movie actually did play pretty amazing, and it's interesting how that there's like a, concept between this. How the fact that, the concept of the whole thing just actually fits out perfectly well with this. Especially with the characters all acting normal and stuff, I actually found this movie to be rather sweet. It was kind and sweet, sure. It was really interesting when I first saw this in theaters with the Studio Ghibili Fest. It's actually still really amazes me that the movie itself actually worked out very well. With the fact that, that they released this in a couple of stuff, it actually still works pretty amazing. Despite the fact that, this movie was actually another one of my favorites, along with, Kiki's Delivery Service and etc. This one does pretty good as in regards to this, and a lot of people really remember seeing this when they were kids. And I'm sure most of you guys probably grew up with this movie along with some other Studio Ghibli movies. So, with that being said, Dola's pirates are later kidnapped and Muska's soldiers plunge into the city's treasures. Upon gaining the entrance to the city's central atmosphere and the vast authority for all of Laputa's significant knowledge, Muska eventually captures Sheeta again with his agents open fire upon Patsu, who escapes and frees the pirates before finding a way into the spear. So the other center of Laputa, which contains the immense of volatical crystal, keeping the city at loft, Muska identifies himself as Romoska Paulu Laputa, another member of Laputa's royal line, and uses Sheeta's crystal to access and advance Laputan technology. He betrays his own soldiers by destroys the Goliath by unleashing Laputa's weapon of massive destruction. However, and the robot army, while declaring the intent to use both to conquer the world, and during the mayhem, the horrified Sheeta retrieves the crystal amulet and flees, but Muska pursues her. Hearing Patsu's voice, Sheeta gives the amulet to him with a gap on the wall and is cornered by Muska in the Laputa's throne room. So during the confrontation with Muska, Sheeta explains that the purple people of Laputa left the castle because they realized it was meant to live on Earth and not in the sky. Muska refuses her agreements and shoots off the braids and threatens to kill her unless the crystal amulet is given to him. Patsu requests to be allowed to talk to Sheeta, but Muska grants them 1 minute, 3 minutes only in the original Japanese version. At this request, Sheeta tells Patsu about the spell of destruction, and they both recite the spell, causing the castle to disintegrate and blinding Muska, who then falls to his death. Falls to his death. We all know, certain characters, villains have fallen their deaths, like Scar falling down from the Pride Rock before being killed by the hyenas. Yeah, that's pretty disturbing to come to think of it, but at least this is actually pretty interesting when it had to that story, but it's just pretty amazing and well done. So, okay. Though I actually found this movie to be rather one of the longest, but also more intriguing movies of Studio Ghibli. I guess this one actually becomes a really good movie, along with Kiki's Delivery Service and a bunch of other movies This one actually is number 4 on the spot. If you watch my top 10 favorite Studio Ghibli movies, you probably get the idea. After surviving the collapse, Patsu and Shita reunite with Dola and her pirates, and they leave Laputa behind. When they part with the pirates, Patsu flies with Shita home, and he had promised her to start a new life together. So that's basically, a happy ending. Shita finally gets a happy ending with Patsu. Like a pretty much a Disney movie, like Prince and Princess says met each other, princess gets kidnapped, or vice versa. The prince saves the princess, or the princess saves the prince, and they end up having a new life, start a new life together. This is actually a pretty well made ending that they had, described the fact that, Patsu and Shita want to start a new life together. I think a sequel to this movie would be kind of interesting, despite the fact that this is almost is like over 30 years old. If there were ever to be a sequel to this, but the only thing we could definitely do is just realize it and make it up as a fan fiction. It would be actually really well made and interesting if that was to become of that. I could actually very well see that there will be a sequel to it. If there is ever to be a sequel, that is. Now, during the end credits, the remains of Laputa float in the orbit, maintained by the Voluga crystal embedded with the roots of the central tree. That's actually what you could see near the end of the movie. What I actually think about this movie actually was actually a really well made movie. Even though it was sad at certain parts, it's still pretty good. While Hayao Miyazaki's earlier films, his series, Future Boy Conan, and some other stuff, he added a number of elements that he later adapted Castle in the Sky. For example, the pendants for Patsu and Shita had similarities to Shita's rescue by Patsu. Now, some of the characters and the themes in the Future Boy of Conan set the blueprints from Castle in the Sky. The name Laputa is delivered from Jonathan Swift's novel Gulliver's Travels, wherein Swift's Laputa was also a floating island, then propelled by a giant central crystal, control its citizens. So that's basically where he got the idea for the name Laputa, or the castle in the sky. So, with that being said, some of the architecture that's seen into the film that was inspired by a Welsh mining town, Miyazaki's first visit to Wales in 1984 witnessed the miners' strike had firsthand. He had returned to the country in 1986 to prepare for Laputa, which he said reflects on the Welsh experience. I was in Wales after the miners' strike. I was really admired the way the miners' reunion followed by the very end of their jobs in their communities. I wanted to reflect the strength on those communities by my film. Miyazaki told The Guardian that I admired those men, and I admired the way they battled to save their life. It's just the coal miners in Japan that did. Many people of my generation see miners as symbol and dying breed of fighting the men, now that they are gone. So that's basically how they got their idea to the movie. So when the film was released in Japan in August 2nd, 1986, they also released Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, in the late 1980s as an English dub version of this time. So when this movie was being made, Castle in the Sky became one of the head of the streamline was pretty good, but although in the future they did some adaptations of My Neighbor Totoro and even Kiki's Delivery Service later on. The original dub of Castle in the Sky is also seen in the 1996 Studio Ghibili letter set, and is set to be the first Japanese DVD release. The intentional DVD release in Japan is now out of print, and subsequent re-released in 2014, it replaces it with the Disney dub version. So the English dub version was produced by Walt Disney Pictures, same people who did the same people who did dub Kiki's Delivery Service, recorded in 1998, and planned to release the video in 1999. But the release was canceled after Princess Mononoke was not faring well in the US as Japan. So Laputa's release date was pushed back yet again on the occasion of the completely dub as screened as select as children's festivals. The film was finally released on DVD and video in the US in April 15, 2003, along the re-side of the re-release of Kiki's Delivery Service as Spirited Away as Mononoke and Kiki. The critical opinion was mixed out of the new dub. So which which of course Laputa was reassured on American Home Video on March 2nd, 2010, as a tribute company with the home release video of Ponyo, which the film was released by Walt Disney Studios Entertainment on Blu-ray in North America. But of course, they alongside with Whisper of the Heart and The Secret World of Artery, Shout Factory, and G-Kids reissued the film to be on Blu-ray and DVD in 2017. The film received a free screening in May 2011 as part of the charity fund for Japan. The print is shown on the original theatrical Japanese print with the English subtitles for a special promotion. That was actually pretty interesting. By 2003, Laputa Castle in the Sky had sold around millions of copies of VHS and DVD units in Japan. At the average of retail price, as if winning a lot of money, this was approximately around just over 17 million in Japanese sales as revenue in 2012. So, besides the fact that I went on to the development and even the release and stuff like that, let's talk about the differences between the versions, between the Japanese version, the Disney one, and the original English dub. So, although the plot is pretty much like this with the script intact, Disney's English dub of Castle in the Sky contains some changes. So the background chatter as well as some one-liners were even added, even more so than the Disney's dub of Kiki's Delivery Service, filling in the moments of silence and increasing the frantic effects of certain scenes. So was commissioned to rework on where Joe Hisaishi, who is extending his original work on the 60-minute electronic orchestra score to a 90-minute symphonic orchestra score to make the film more palatable with American audiences. The sound mix was received a vast overhaul as well. Patsu and Shita, voiced by James Van Der Berk and Anna Paquin, had respectively made the sounds to be several years older, placing them in their mid-teens rather than their pre-teens. So that's actually a very big difference compared to, the Japanese version of Castle in the Sky. The Japanese version is a pretty good version, and I do have to say, I like the English dub of this as well. But I think I might give a chance on the Disney version and see if I like the Disney one, and I would give you your opinion on that. So several modifications were made to the Dola's gang dialogue regarding Shita, including the declaration of love by one of the pirates. In the original Japanese version, the dialogue presented Shita as potential mother figure to the pirates, rather than a potential romance interest. So in references to Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, and John Swift's Gulliver Travels were moved, which was later been removed from the original dub, which is kind of disappointing to be completely honest. So, although these alternative iterations were approved by Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki, some of the critics have called them into question regarding the soundtrack. Miyazaki himself has said to be approved of Heisei's reworking, and compliments that were echoed by several reviewers. However, in the 2010 DVD re-release, some of these reverts to some changes. The updated score and the soundtrack mix were replaced by the original in-scene subs, restaining the updates for the dub. Some of the added dialogue removed from the dub, and even restoring the silence where it was the original Japanese version. However, the English subtitles were not updated with the reflect due to trimmed dialogue, in which sometimes results in the text being displayed when no characters were speaking. These changes were also seen in the 2012 Blu-ray re-release. However, the Japanese and Australian and British Blu-rays had updated the score as used, and the subtitles are properly trimmed. Literal translations from the original Japanese version, rather than importantly trimmed dubs. Now in 2017, the Blu-ray released by G-Kids, besides the offering the Japanese features the 2010 edited version of the dub, but presents the option of playing it whatever it be the original or the new score. For the subtitles, they correctly translated from Japanese to English subtitles that were added, which HBO Max release of the English dubs only uses the original score. In the film's release in Netflix, onto the Japanese audio features the original audio and score mix, while the English audio features the two updated audio mix and scores. Subtitles were only available in the original Japanese audio. Now, the soundtrack of this whole thing, I really love the soundtrack of this movie, as most of the songs in there were actually really well done, really well made, and actually worked pretty well with the concept when it comes to the story. The story itself of Castle in the Sky actually worked out really well done, and it actually did a lot of work. Even though this story had really good characters, and even when lots of great things, I definitely have to say Castle in the Sky is definitely one of those Studio Ghibli movies that you have to see. If you haven't seen this movie already, I highly recommend you check it out, as you will not be disappointed once you see it. I actually remembered this movie when I was younger, but I wasn't really interested in it at the time. But I rewatched it again back in 2017, and I remember this movie just by looking at the good concept. And I actually have to say, this story actually worked pretty well, and it actually was amazing. And the concept, everything about it was just flat out amazing, especially with a lot of time and effort that Hayao Miyazaki has put into his movies. This one is actually one of the best ones that I've seen so far. So with that being said, my little pretties, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you guys like this movie, leave me know what your thoughts are in the comments section about down below. What do you guys think of this movie? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this movie a lot better. Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. As I'm the Queen of Lions, thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you happen to be brand new on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as I make brand new videos every single day. But also don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so then you guys will enjoy everything. And besides that, you guys will get notified to my newest uploads. So with that being said, my little pretties, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll be seeing you all in the next upload. Thanks for so much watching of this episode of Shadows and Pretties, and I'll be catching you all in the next video. So peace out, everyone, and I'll talk to you next time.